Awesome. Cool. So welcome everyone to Metagov seminar. Today we have, um, Carlo Michaelis joining us to share research on evocracy or evolutionary democracy. This is Metagov seminar, a weekly research presentation on digital governance. So thank you, Carlo, for joining us, and the floor is yours to share about your work and research on evocracy.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm really very happy to have this opportunity to talk here, and I will cover actually two topics. So one is the Evocracy decision-making protocol that I introduce, and the other one is my very first ideas of a Web3 democracy. And regarding the latter part, it's actually the very first time I present my first thoughts about this publicly. I thought that the Metagov community is the perfect place to do this and to collect very first feedback on this, but also on the Evocracy process itself, of course. Yeah, and I would just start through. So I'm starting with a quote from Martin Luther King, saying that those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And what I think is behind this quote is that we can observe that humans are very good to collectively organize against an enemy, but it's very hard for humans to organize for a self-defined goal and work towards this goal. And I think this is a little bit the direction we have to go, or where we have to find solutions to improve this. But before I start, I would introduce our team. So me, I would define myself at the moment mostly as researcher and full stack developer, perhaps. I initiated the Evocracy project, I think, in 2011 or so a little bit more than 10 years ago. And I studied psychology, I studied physics, I studied statistics, I did my PhD in computational neuroscience, and also one and a half year postdoc phase afterwards. I was also freelancer or I still am a little bit, for 15 years or so. So I have also a lot of coding practice, and I see myself a little bit on the intersection between like understanding human interaction and using it for some collective intelligence things and combining this with existing technology, especially, of course, today's technologies like blockchain and AI. And Patrick is a team member that was with me from the very first beginning. So he was the first one I wrote and told him about my ideas, and he directly joined, and he was very important in developing the concept together with me and in programming the first prototype. He's coming from computational engineering background. And Yannick, I met Yannick during my PhD student time, and he has a physics background, and when he joined, he helped us a lot in finishing the first prototype, doing the first test, and he was also very important for writing the white paper together with us. So yeah, and all of us are until now working together. Patrick and Yannick are working full-time in full-time jobs, so they are like more or less advisors for me at the moment. And I decided some months ago to fully focus on Evocracy and like try to find a way to look into Evocracy or in collective intelligence in general. Yes, so the question that was driving us all the time is a large one. It's how can we build a democracy that scales globally, that is at the same time efficient in the sense that we have somehow good decisions that we can get in a reasonable time, like some years perhaps maximum, and is potentially recognized as legitimate from the users that use it. So that was the question that is like around in our minds for many years, and we think that democracy is one part of it in a sense that it's a collective intelligence approach that enables scalability and efficiency, but is focused on the democratic decision making. So we're not talking about a whole democracy here. We're just talking about decision making. What I think is a very important foundation for democracies, but it's not a whole democracy, of course. But we have to start somewhere. And yeah, let's jump directly into how Evocracy actually works. So first, everything in Evocracy is organized around topics that depends a little bit on the use case, but in most use cases, every user can create a topic and suggest a topic to discuss about. So this is kind of a problem statement, something to solve, something that a community has as a problem. And these topics are then organized in several stages. So first, we have to select. So if every user can create a topic, not every, so perhaps some users suggest something that is not important for the whole community that is using the software. So first, the community needs to select which topics are actually relevant to discuss on. In a second step, when we have decided that this topic is relevant to discuss, every user can create a proposal of how to solve this, can bring in ideas, opinions, whatever, independently and individually. And then we bring all of this together in the evolution stage. And finally, we have an evaluation stage where we vote on the final result and see if people were satisfied with the result. Okay, but I will go through this in detail now. So first, how does the topic look like? So this is an abstract view on a topic. So we have an open question. Closed questions do not make so much sense in Evocracy, actually. So it's always good to have an open question where we really can discuss on. Then we have a region, or a group of people or a domain where, let's say group of people, a reference group perhaps, where this question belongs to. So group of people that is asked to bring in proposals and discuss on it. Then we have a description. We can add some references. We can add a lot of more of things just to give you an idea of how this could look like. And we could optionally vote on it. Depends on the use case. And if it's a little bit more managed, perhaps in a company or so, perhaps some manager says, yes, we discuss about it and just decides it. But if it's a little bit more self-organized, then we could implement a voting mechanism that would allow us to vote if this is relevant or not. And if we would implement some voting, it could look like this, for example. Here on the y-axis, you see the number of votes, on the x-axis, the time. And the interesting idea that we had is not to directly take the votes as they are, but to have an expiration time for the votes, which means that if you vote, your vote is only valid for like 3 months, and afterwards you can renew it, but it automatically expires, which gives us kind of a measure of the momentum of interest in a specific topic. And so this N is actually the momentum of interest, or reflects the momentum of interest. And if the momentum reaches an upper threshold, we consider the topic as accepted, and the users can start to propose solutions. If the momentum stops and people are not voting anymore for it because perhaps a small group of people found it quite interesting, but then interest is vanishing, then it can decline again. And when it is under a specific lower threshold for some time, it's automatically rejected. Which does not mean that it's like lost forever. I could bring it in any time again. Perhaps it was just not the right time. Perhaps the question was not well formulated, whatever. So I can try it again, of course. But this particular one is then rejected. Okay, but now we assume that we have an accepted topic, and here we have one user shown by this dot, and one proposal document, which is here this document. And now we have not only one user, but we have 9 users that individually propose solutions. Like, for example, how could the town hall be fixed? And they can write, like, I don't know, 5 pages making drawings explaining exactly how the roof could be fixed. But it could also be someone who just says, I want the roof to be red, and that's okay. Just one sentence, just one small idea that the person has, or opinion or need or whatever. That's also fine. And in the next step, when we have collected all the opinions, we randomly assign those people together with their proposals into groups of 3 in this case, so in small groups, with the simple ideas that it's much easier to discuss in small groups instead of large groups, of course. And then we have one collaborative document provided for each group. And now the users have some tools available. It can be chat, can be forum, can be polls, can be video calls. So whatever they want to use, or whatever the software provides, or whatever the use case is, what makes sense. Can even be a personal meeting, so they can even meet in person and discuss it. That's also fine. And their job in this group is to come together, so to find ideally consensus about their different perspectives, about their different ideas, bring them together, write a common solution. And in parallel to this writing process, there is an election ongoing where people rate each other regarding 3 criteria. At least that's what we suggest at the moment. Cooperativeness, so how cooperative is this person in my group? How much does this person know about this particular topic what we are talking about? And how engaged is this person? And then after some time, this is evaluated, and we have one representative for each group. And then we basically repeat the process in a sense that we, again, randomly assign now the representatives, and those representatives take the group documents with them. And now they are again in small groups. They again have a collaborative document available. So you can imagine this collaborative document, of course, like Google Docs or so. And again, they have again all these tools available. If it's not the last group, they again rate each other. And if it's the last group, they then write the final document. And if we look to this in a little bit larger scale, then you can see how this process looks with a little bit more people. So if we assume like we have 125 proposals for a specific topic, so 125 people that suggest a solution to a problem, then in the first level, they write a common solution, they vote for a representative. Then those representatives come again randomly assigned to two groups of 5. Again, in these groups of 5, they try to bring together those group results in a new single group result of this group. Again, rate each other. We have one representative, and then those representatives again randomly assigned to a group. Or in this case, it's not randomly assigned because there are just 5 left. But anyway, we have the last group. They write the final document, and that's it. And what is nice about this approach is that it scales logarithmically. So if we assume a group size of 5, which is perhaps the good size to choose, we would have for a village, for example, with 1,000 participants, we would require only 5 levels. So we could include 1,000 different opinions, and within 5 steps, in a sense, 5 discussion rounds, we would have a solution already. And we can scale this up, or we can scale this up to the whole world, where if we would include 8 billion people, which is very unlikely because I mean, there's no topic probably where really everyone would take place. But even if this would be the case, we would require 15 levels, and depending on how we choose the level, times would be 2, 3, perhaps 4 years. But then we have really included like every idea of everyone regarding a topic, for a solution. And that's, I think, the strength of this Evocracy process. And just to sum up, so we had when we have a topic, we first select it, then the users can individually propose it. Then we have this evolution process. And then finally, we have an evaluation. So when we have the final result, since we have only 5 people writing the final document, we would like to have a measure for how good was this discussion process. And this evaluation gives us exactly this. So if 20% of the people who took part initially, who have proposed something, said, okay, this is good result, I'm happy with this, then it was probably not that good process or not that good result. If 80% are saying this is a good result, then it's probably a good result. And then it's up to the use case what you do with this measure. Either you decide to accept or reject solutions depending on I don't know, 50% level or whatever. That's up to the use case. Okay, now let's look a little bit scientifically on this. This is what I would like to do a little bit more in the upcoming years. Here I refer to Surowiki, so this Wisdom of a Crowds book. And I added some more resources, some more literature to it, which is probably not so important now. And there are 4 criteria in this book. The first one is diversity of opinion, which means that you don't want to have a small expert group or a small, in general, selected group that solves the problem. You want to have a whole variety, so a large distribution of people to solve a problem. And there are a lot of studies that show that if you have a diverse group of people, then you get very good collective intelligence results. And Evocracy is doing exactly this because everyone can take part. You're not pre-selecting any people. You're not like having any entry barrier or something. Everyone can bring in something. There is an independence of opinion, which means that there's no information provided to everyone that could bias the outcome. So everyone is on its own, at least when it comes to the first stage where everyone proposes something. There is a decentralized aggregation process, which means that no central authority can in between say, okay, I don't like this idea, we drop it out, or I don't like this person, we don't want to work with him or her for this discussion. So it's a decentralized aggregation process. And we have trust between participants because the whole process is clearly defined in the beginning. We have transparency, and we can even improve this if we use open source software. If we use perhaps blockchain, this can even be more improved. So I think the criteria for collective intelligence are quite well met here with the Evocracy approach. And now the question, how could it be used? So in principle, in a lot of various ways, I just provide here some examples. So it could be in an organization or company, like to have employee participation. We could use kind of crowdfunding, that people who are giving money to develop a product could actually also develop the product, or at least parts of the product, in a very like very intense process in a way. Then we could use it for collaborative coding. This, I think, would be quite interesting for open source projects where you could see it as like what is a topic in the Evocracy process is then an issue. So people would write issues, like issues on GitHub, for example, and then they could vote if these issues are important to solve. And if yes, everyone could suggest code to change it, and then you could use the Evocracy process to come together on a final piece of code that could change the software, and then it could be included, and then you have kind of a collaborative coding process involved. You could use it for citizen participation. I think this is quite clear how to use it in this case. By the way, this picture is my hometown. And there is you can use it for political decision making. For example, I think it would be very interesting to use it for petitions, so that people could write petitions together, or parties could use it, for example. And finally, the global decision making approach. So since it scales so well, couldn't it be possible to use it in a global scale? And that's where I would like to take you with me a little bit further into this direction. So what would actually be required to build a global democracy? So how could it look like? At this stage, see it rather as a collection, because I just started to collect some ideas around it, and I think it gives an idea in which direction I'm thinking and in which direction it could go, but it's not a mature project that I'm presenting now. It's just first ideas. And I would really be interested what you think about this, actually. So first, I think if we have a global decision-making platform, or even a global democracy in a way, the ownership need to be decentralized. So I don't want to see a small group of people owning a global democracy. So blockchain or decentralized ledger technology is inevitable, I think. And there are a lot of projects that are working into this direction. I think actually that there is no blockchain project at the moment that could provide this, as I imagine it at the moment. But there are definitively a lot of projects that work in this direction, naming, for example, Ethereum, that is still very decentralized with small nodes, but still lacks sharding, which or at least full sharding, which would make it a little bit more possible, perhaps. Then IPFS as data storage, or combinations with Ceramic, which is a project which includes blockchain and data storage. Arweave is a permanent storage that is doing quite interesting stuff. So this is something I really I'm really looking a lot into at the moment. And the Internet Computer, which is as far as I know, only existing blockchain project that includes front end, back end, and data completely so everything decentralized. But the only problem here is that the nodes are very large, so not everyone can run a node. So it's really not that decentralized as Ethereum, for example. So just giving some ideas in which direction this could go. And there would be some economic systems, some incentives necessary. This is just very, very broad overview. So there would be some fees necessary that people pay for transaction. Not everything should cost money, of course, but some things would probably make sense to have transaction fees for or some contributions to the system. And what is very important, I think, is that it's very important that people can earn if they engage, so that they get rewards if they really put in several weeks of work in discussing and writing stuff together. They need to get some compensation for it. There's an interesting approach called or I call it proof of engagement. It's originally called proof of political power from the Democracy Routes project, which is quite interesting, where people get higher chances to validate blocks um, if they engage in the software or in the system. Okay, second thing is, then this is, I think, quite interesting idea, is to see this as a dynamic system, because as I said, you can use Evocracy also with a code editor instead of a text editor. And if we would use it also with a code editor, you could, inside of this platform, you could not only suggest topics that you want to discuss, like what is important to society, but you can also discuss what needs to be changed about the software itself, like issues. And you can, or software updates or whatever, or security patches. And you can say, okay, I think we should bring in, or we should change our software, our whole decision-making system in a way that this and this feature is needed. So you suggest it, people vote on it, say, yes, this is relevant to include. And they start the Evocracy process in coding, actually, what the new feature should look like. In the end, you have one piece of code available that can directly be included. So we can see it as a kind of a self-organized CI/CD pipeline, where the monitoring, planning, and coding phase is included into the Evocracy part, and the rest is more or less automated. And then we have the idea of community parameters, which would mean that that every user can individually and continuously adapt all the system parameters. So you could imagine it as a settings page where you can say, okay, I believe groups of 4 make most sense. Another one says, no, I think groups of 6 make most sense, or whatever parameter in the system is. And then you just use, for example, truncated mean that is then directly used as parameter in the system. So we use kind of collective intelligence to define the parameters of the system itself. So we not only use collective intelligence to find solutions, but we also use collective intelligence to code the software and to change the parameters of the system. Another problem actually that exists is authentication, because in Evocracy, a big problem is the Sybil attack. So when one person creates 10,000 accounts, the person can easily spoil the whole discussion process. So we need to make clear that we have a unique relationship between an actual person and a user in the system. And I personally believe that passport-based solutions, even if they are zero knowledge-based, are not the solution, at least in the long term, because if one country is not willing to provide this global democracy or work together with this global democracy, they could take away passports from users or from people, for example, to make it impossible for them to take part. And it's kind of importing a centralized solution, decentralized system. But fortunately, there are solutions, namely in the form of Web of Trust. And there's which is a very old idea. So goes back to the 90s, I think. But there is an algorithm called Sybil rank that uses social graph analysis to give a clear value of how likely it is that a person is a real person. And this is used by a project called BrightID that implements all of this in blockchain again. And it has a very nice additional feature called social recovery, which means that people who are like very close to you can recover your account if you lose it, which is a very, very nice idea. So in principle, this bases on a decentralized, or let's say mutual confirmation of existence in a sense, or of being real. And this can of course be there could of course be an additional reputation system that helps to make sure that people are really people. And on the other hand, it would, of course, be great if the system would not only allow global decisions, but also local decisions and residence-based solutions, in the sense that you take your, I don't know, ID card to prove that you're a resident of a specific town or so, is a little bit too restricted. I see it more in general sense that we could build something like a web of identity, which means that, again, based on mutual confirmations of your identity, you could ask people to confirm your identity of living in Berlin or belonging to the Nile region, so the river in Africa, or being part of the hip hop culture in a sense. So you can define your identity based on mutual confirmations, and then you could use it in Evocracy topics to define for which identity groups, in a sense, this topic is relevant. So if, for example, in some Berlin museums, there is some art taken away from the Nile region, like I don't know, 200 years ago, then you could, and someone wants to solve this, then the person would create a topic and say, okay, we want to bring back the art to the Nile region from Berlin museums. And he would include Berlin and a logical operation or with the Nile region. So all people from Berlin and all people from the Nile region could discuss together how this could be resolved. And the same, like if people would discuss about like competition rules, like hip hop competition rules in Berlin, they could do an intersection between the Berlin identity people and the hip hop identity people. So it's like a living identity in a sense. That could be used here. And then, of course, we need efficient group discussions. There's a whole to say here, but I try to condense this as good as possible. So there is, we can, of course, use different document types, editors, code editors, whiteboards even. There's a group called Swarm Check here in Metagov community that use argument maps, could also be included in an Evocracy process. We need good tools for conflict resolution. There we could use delegation, for example, like with liquid democracy. We could use qualitative methods like the IK project proposes, which is a little bit more psychological, who are also active here in the Metagov community. We could use vote-based methods, which I find very interesting in a sense that it would be very interesting to vote on text changes in a document. I digged a lot into this direction, actually, and there's a technical solution available called CRDT, but I'm not going into this perhaps too much, but yeah, this is a very interesting part, I think. And then, of course, AI. We can't miss it out. And there is a lot of support that can be given by AI assistants, like during in terms of deliberation, in terms of helping while the writing process. We can use collective knowledge. I'm coming to this in the last slide, in the next last slide. We can then use like LLMs to give us suggest text changes based on chat, for example, which is a little bit what Harmonica is doing, where like chatbot interactions are then integrated into a solution in a way. Then video call discussions, which can be transcribed, summarized, and also important for text changes, as the Democracy Routes project is doing, and so on. So there's a lot of things I think that can be done here. And finally, also very Metagov related, I would say. So from Aviv, there is this bridging-based ranking paper, I think from 2 or 3 years ago, what I find very interesting. I did not read it completely for now, but I will definitively do. And there are some projects that is doing things like this. So the basic idea is to write recommendation algorithms that bring people together instead of building bubbles. And there is community nodes, for example, very famous Polis, and also the Global Brain Algorithm project that is part here that is also active here in the Metagov community. And I talked with Jonathan from the Global Brain Algorithm project, and I got a new perspective then on this bridging-based ranking, because to me now it seems like a way of really getting collective truth in a sense. So if you imagine like what people think about a particular thing, if you imagine this as a distribution, and then this bridging-based ranking somehow narrows this distribution and brings people together in what they see as truth in a sense. So it's kind of a collective knowledge or truth thing based on present or past events or information. And there is also prediction markets, which are a kind of collective knowledge for the future, which means, yeah, you can have high quality data about what will probably happen in the future, which is also very important, I think, for democracies. Like there are these Web3 projects like Polymarket or Augur, which are very well known. But there is also one white paper from Rolf Merkel. This is the famous cryptographer who gave name to the Merkle tree. And he wrote a white paper. I think it's not so well known, but it's very interesting to read actually, about DAO democracy, where he builds a whole, where he creates an idea of a whole democracy that is built on prediction markets. This is very interesting. Yeah, and I think when I'm not wrong, I'm through with this. Yes. So if you, yeah, I'm now very curious about what you think about this. So if you would like to contact me, feel free to contact me wherever you want. And so I think that the Evocracy project or the Evocracy decision-making project is very mature already. So I think, so from the tests we have done, from the prototype that we have programmed, and also from the descriptions that are more or less solid now. It's ready for research and for application, actually, while the Web3 democracy part is like just the very first ideas. And I just wanted to bring this out because I've not seen anything like this until now. If there is someone who has already thought about this, perhaps even more than me, then let me know. But if not, then perhaps this could be a starting point to go into this direction. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carlo. Yeah, it is so cool to see your research and to feel like you've done such a comprehensive lay of the land and brought together so many different projects and concepts that folks in this community are involved in and researching or actively working on. So yeah, really, really awesome to see how you've brought it all together and are envisioning something for the future that combines lots of these things. So thank you so much. I want, yeah, to kick off our discussion. We have a short stack, but if you've got questions, please post them in the chat or type stack. But our first person to type stack was Alex. So take it away, Alex, with your question.
Yes, thank you. Nice to meet you, Carlo. And congrats on the good work. So more than a question, I have a reflection about how this interrelates with sociocracy. I don't know if you know a little bit about that, but I think some of the things that you share are related. And I would like to highlight 3 specific points that sociocracy talks, so you can also consider them in your own framework, which I guess you have thought, but if not, maybe it will be useful. So in sociocracy, there is something called like proposal collective creation. In Spanish is creación colectiva de propuestas, which basically has this similar pattern of going first into enlisting the different needs that needs to be solved, and then like doing like a brainstorming, and then going back to synthesizing in a proposal, right? So basically, in your model, some concerns that arises for me is first the part about how do you select the representatives that goes to the next level or to the next scale. In sociocracy, there is this concern about like power dynamics and how if you only make like a self-made election, it's probably that you will end up at the top with the most powerful persons, which in some cases are less connected to the problem and to the need. So the way that sociocracy tries to solve that is through a nomination selection process where the whole circle proposes who they want to be, and it's not a matter of voting, but a matter of trying to integrate why that person is the right pick. So yeah, something for you to think. The second part is about the synthesizing of the ideas. So as I understand in your proposal, each time you get to the next level, you try to bring all the ideas from there, right? But again, if you have like power dynamic involved in that conversation, it's possible that some concerns won't be expressed out loud if the person itself doesn't have that need to be close for him or her, right? So it's easy for someone to actually don't mention something from the back, from the lower level, because of their own benefits or because of whatever, right? So you can either have 2 members as a double link to reduce the information traffic, or also you could, in a way, like enlist the considerations that needs to be represented in the last proposal. So instead of just bringing people up, you also bring like a list of things that the proposals need to check before it's like officially proposed, right? Which I think is also useful. And the third, and I close, is the idea of everybody proposing something about any topic, which sounds amazing, but in the practice, I think is difficult for someone to propose about something that they don't really know about. And maybe they will go to a circle and they will be super enthusiastic and super agreeable. So maybe their opinion will get more and more attention, but maybe they don't really know what they are talking about. So another solution that can be designed there is to have circles based on topics. So you kind of delegate some of the authority of that specific topic to whoever is part of that circle. And you could have like a membership model where you kind of grant people the moment where they are allowed to have like a vote or where they will do something. So you keep it open in the sense that everyone can participate, but you need to, in a way, commit to be part of a circle or a topic circle to actually get more involved, so you can distribute the decisions in a more efficient way instead of having everyone involved in everything. So again, like 3 different comments that I hope brings you more like robustness to the model.
Yeah, thanks. That was really a lot. But so I actually looked into sociocracy once. I think it's one year ago, but I cannot really remember everything. But I think it's on my list to contact someone from that project to learn more. But I never did it until now. But anyway, this is anyhow very interesting. So very valuable suggestions. So I can perhaps add some things perhaps that we have also thought about already. So in the Evocracy open source software that we've programmed so far, the discussions are actually anonymous. So you don't know the names, or so that there's no profile in a sense. So in each group you have new names and random colors, random names available. So you don't know if you vote for someone that is known for something or not. So everyone is equal in a sense. You don't even know if it's the gender that this name is saying. So I could be Jenny or whatever. This was one thing that we implemented. Another thing is that every group has a forum that is public. So if I'm discussing in a group and I miss something, people from outside, for example, from lower levels, can go into this and can say, "Hey guys, we have already discussed about this. Please bring it back," or "this is an idea how you can improve this because in another group they discussed this already," or whatever. So there's some horizontal additional discussion possible. But anyway, your ideas are still very helpful. So I would perhaps I'm contacting you at some point because I would like to make notes. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yes.
Awesome. Yes, that's what we're here for, and definitely encourage collaboration afterward, and we can start up a thread in Slack and see where this goes. Yeah, I'd also invite you, Carlo, to please share your slide deck with us so that we can check it out and research some of the things. And yeah, perhaps we can do some kind of collaborative work session about it, because there are so many different projects that we all know about, and I love the way that, again, yours just kind of is thinking about how these might work together. So yeah, our next question asker, I want to see if John, you wanted to maybe talk about what you know of proof of democracy, or where that comes from, or yeah, was that in the presentation? I might have missed that, but you have a moment if you want it.
Yeah, I just had a question about proof of democracy, a basic one. I would just like to learn more if you have any resources. You mentioned that there was a team called Root Democracy or Democracy Root.
Democracy Roots, yes, yeah. So they call it proof of how was it? Proof of political power. And the idea, so I think it's not so much developed at the moment. I think there is some I don't know if you can find it when you Google. I think Alessandro has written one document somewhere or on his blog or so where he described this idea. So proof of political power was this term he used, and the idea was that if you are in a blockchain based project in a way, so if for example this Evocracy discussion process would be in a blockchain, then if you are elected to be in the next round, in the next level in a group, then you get something that gives you the right to validate blocks with a higher chance. So like lottery tickets in a sense. And the higher you get in this process, the more lottery tickets you get, the higher the chance that you can validate a block and get, of course, also reward for this. So it's kind of a combination of you take if you engage in the software in this democratic decision making, you're not only helping to in the consensus mechanism, but you're also like personally profit from it in a sense that you get more rewards the more you engage in the process. That is a little bit the idea. But it's not that I know something that is more in detail described. It's just an idea going around, and Alessandro has written some ideas about this. It's not so much mature at the moment.
Cool, thank you. And while I have you, I just have one other quick question. So,
Yes.
in terms of like these nodes, these teams that are making their decisions, like to what extent do they have an overview of the decisions that are being made by other nodes?
You mean in relation to the whole topics
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question because at the moment, so if it's just applied like it is in a sense, there is a high risk that people discuss the same thing all over again. So there needs to be again some AI assistant in a sense that helps you. So when you write a new topic and you say I would like to discuss about this and that, and you write your question, your problem statement, whatever, that the AI suggests to you, okay, there is something that is similar. Look into this first before you suggest your topic because we don't want to do this again in a sense. What is also an idea is to have references between topics. So if you create a topic, you reference to other topics that are related to this. Perhaps you build on top of discussions that were already there. But in a sense, it's also an open problem. So there are some ideas around how to work with this, but I would not see this as solved. So there's still a risk that things come up again and are discussed again.
Cool, thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. We have time for a couple more questions, so feel free to keep them coming in the chat. I was next on the stack, so I'll ask you my question, which is, I guess has kind of two parts. One is about interoperability. We have right now in Metagov a cohort, and it's being led or at least supported by Lee, who's here on this call, and maybe they want to chime in and support me in asking this question. But like, yeah, the sort of like practical like need for interoperability across a lot of tools, it sounds like is pretty crucial to putting all the pieces of this puzzle together. So I'm curious your thoughts on that or experience with that or advice on how to actually practically, technically realize interoperability, and or if it is more about like actually just the processes that the tools I guess are using that needs to be interoperable, less the technology. Thoughts there?
Yeah. So very interesting thoughts actually. So I'm actually also part of the cohort. So I know about what they try to do there, or what Metagov is trying to do with the interoperability. And so I would say, I mean, for Evocracy, that's not so relevant, but or it's relevant, but Evocracy is so I at the moment try to define Evocracy as a protocol, so this should be interoperable by definition in a sense, or at least that's my intention, to have it interoperable in a sense. So whoever wants to include it can be included as a component, as a module, can be included in a monolithic software, so whatever they want to do. This is very open and possibly, yeah, possible to include it in any whatever. But regarding the Web3 democracy, I'm I don't know. So at the moment, I just collected a lot of ideas that I found during the last years, especially during the last month, especially here in Metagov. And I just collected some things that I think could work well together. But I did not think about too much about if this is better to have it more modularized with interoperable small tools, or if it's better to have one big, huge software that is doing everything. Normally in blockchain systems, interoperability is possible and easy, and so normally also like a good thing in a sense. But I simply don't know. So I have to find out which is the best way here. So I'm not that far at the moment. And perhaps saying because I'm saying I, so it's actually I at the moment, especially regarding Web3 democracy. But I'm seeing this really as something where I would invite everyone, so everyone who has ideas can contribute. And my current idea is to start perhaps a collaborative white paper or so on GitHub, where I would perhaps start writing down the first ideas, and then people can join and help me writing this. So it's an open process. I'm not so, especially regarding the Web3 democracy, I'm not seeing this as something where I want to found a company on or so. So this is just a collaborative process here.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the GovBase project and the GovBase database, which if you haven't seen it or whatever already, it's on Airtable, and it's a big database of governance tooling. But I feel like your presentation kind of highlights with more precision, like what each tool, how the tools like fit in, have their unique kind of processes that they, yeah, and how they all fit together. Like, and I don't know, but maybe there is some overlap and collaboration possible with the folks who built the GovBase Airtable. So
Yeah,
definitely check that out.
Yeah, I've not looked into this actually. Yes, that's but that's probably a good thing to look into this. But so what I'm trying to do in a sense is actually very similar to what is now in the interoperability cohort happening, like trying to understand how these tools could work together, because there are already a lot of collections about different collective intelligence approaches, I don't know, digital democracy approaches, whatever. And I really want to invest my time to really understand them and think about how could they work together. So it's actually very similar to what the interoperability approach is, with a little bit different goal in a sense, but there are a lot of similarities, of course, yes. And I don't want to do things double. So if if there already exists something, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So I really want to join forces wherever possible, of course.
Totally, yeah. We're definitely about building on each other's work and building with each other. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, only a couple minutes left, but Steve, I see you have a question in the chat about yeah, collectively documenting the processes. Are you asking about Evocracy specifically or Web3 democracy?
Yeah, I was asking about Evocracy particularly. Yeah. That just,
Cool,
how do you envision iterating the process using the data that you collect, essentially?
Yes.
About the process itself.
Yeah, so we first collect data and then we try to merge it or converge the data in a sense. But it doesn't mean that the data is like that you have exclusively concentrate on the data that was there initially. So when there is in level 3 someone in a group that has a new idea, then this new idea can be included. That's okay. So then there is something that came in.
Now, I'm asking on the meta level here. I understand
okay.
how the data moves when you're talking about the data within the document and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about how do you collect data about the whole Evocracy process, and how do you utilize that data to improve the Evocracy process?
You mean data in form of data, like
yeah, in the form of data. The user stories and everything else that's going on, and how those play out, and so forth.
Yeah, so it depends on the use case, of course. So if we're talking about the Evocracy decision-making protocol, then it depends on the use case. So if it's like a company that is using it, then the company would use the very traditional, perhaps open source software that just is stored on a centralized server. The data is stored there, and then needs to be no verification, because you just trust that I don't know, the company that is providing the software is doing the right thing. If you go a little bit higher in the level, in a sense of trust, like citizen participation, perhaps it could make sense to include some blockchain parts, which means that perhaps the groups in the end sign the group results, also the group they have where they had the discussion, and if they sign it, a hash of this group is stored in the blockchain, for example, and proves that all the people taking part in this discussion are happy with the result, or all the people in the end sign that they were happy with the final result, and then you have some proof that this was okay for those people, and that no one actually has changed it, because this is also a problem. If you store the final result and someone manipulates the result, you can claim that, oh, this was what those people have discussed, but they never have discussed it.
The beauty of properly signed documents is that they're cryptographically signed, and they don't have to be stored in a blockchain to be verifiable.
No, yes, right. Yeah,
So
right, absolutely.
you can use blockchain as a form of distribution, but there are other ways of distributing things as well to make sure you always have a backup copy. But once it's a document that's cryptographically signed by those individuals using, like you said, an integrated identity system, then you just rely on your own systems and you don't need blockchain at all.
Yeah, right. So yeah. This is a valid point. It's a good question. So I mean,
I think I hate to cut us off. I just want to be respectful of folks' time, and I want to continue the discussion in the Slack. So, Steve, you had some other points and maybe projects to bring to Carlo's attention. I know you mentioned the baseball project sounds really cool. I'm curious to hear more about that, as well as, of course, Brad DeGraff's work definitely feels relevant here too. So, let's continue the discussion in the Slack, and give folks let folks kind of carry on with their day, process a lot of this, and let's discuss in Slack and start, I don't know, see what comes of it. I would love to integrate, Carlo, your research into some of the other kind of group synthesizing projects or people that we have in this community. So with that, thank you so much for presenting. Folks, please unmute and make some noise or react with some clap emojis in the chat, and and then sign off and have a great rest of your day, y'all. But thank you so much, Carlo, for sharing your research with us.
Thank you too.
All right, noise for you.
Thank you.
Some noise.
Thank you, everyone. All right, let's discuss on Slack. Have a nice day.